Admit all. Admit all. Welcome, everybody. Admit all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let everybody come on in. So good to see you. Thanks for coming. Takes a minute for everybody to come on in. Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm just going to shut this music down a little bit more. And there we go. Hello, friends, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Zenful Conversations, a place where stories open like wild flowers and where we gather to remember what's real, what's tender, and what's beautifully human. Thanks for coming to support and to gather in the name of love. All the contact information for our guest speaker will be shared at the end of the conversation today, as well as in the follow-up email tomorrow. You'll get the replay link and the contact information tomorrow in that email. I'm your host. My name is Zenjen Brown, and today my heart is very full. Today we're welcoming two brave and beautiful humans to our virtual studio. Poet James Cruz, whose work has been a refuge and a light for so many, and his husband, Brad Peacock, whose voice and wisdom now join James in their first creative collaboration, an upcoming poetry anthology called Love is for All of Us, poems of tenderness and belonging from the LGBTQ plus community and friends. So for clarity to those listening who might not be familiar, LGBTQ plus is an evolving acronym that honors the spectrum of gender identities and sexual orientations. It stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, and the plus holds space for all others. Because love, like identity, doesn't always fit into neat little boxes. This book is a celebration of all that love can be. James Cruz is the heart behind several beloved poetry anthologies, including The Wonder of Small Things, The Path to Kindness, and How to Love the World, books that have touched thousands and sold over 100,000 copies. His work has been featured in NPR's Morning Edition, the New York Times, the Boston Globe, People, and more. James teaches mindfulness and writing across the United States. He has a wonderful online writing community titled The Monthly Pause, and recently joined the faculty of New York Zen Center's Contemplative. Brad Peacock is a veteran, writer, and a longtime organic farmer whose passion lies in bringing people closer to one another and to the natural world. His poems and essays have been published nationally. Brad and James live together on 40 wild and wonderful acres in Vermont, which they are restoring into a sanctuary for pollinators and native species. James and Brad, what a joy to welcome you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. As we sit here together on the edge of something tender and new, something bold and brave, your book, Love is for All of Us, is preparing us to make its way into the world. So I wanted to know what was moving through your hearts in this moment as we begin this conversation about a project that's so close to both of you. How are you feeling?
I'll start. I'll say that, my heart is really full, and I really appreciate your tender and, very open-hearted introduction of us. I love how you described that I'm the heart behind the books that I put into the world, because there is so much heart that is in them. And I would say that Brad is the heart within my heart behind those books. And so I'm feeling really kind of joyful and elated that we get to bring this book out together, because Brad has been very pivotal in all of the books that I've put out into the world, and helping me determine which poems to choose. And um, so I want to honor that. And I'm also a little nervous. I just want to say that, anytime a new thing comes into the world, it's extremely vulnerable. So just honoring that part of things too.
Yeah. What about you, Brad?
I would say that I am extremely grateful. Grateful to be in community with all you all online. This is not my everyday. This is probably my third Zoom type meeting, and I'm not entirely used to it all yet, but I'm getting the hang of it. So bear with me, please. But I'm over the moon. I mean, to be in community with so many great people, part of the family and allies, is just so important, and so important in this moment of time. And it really fills my heart.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to say a little bit about the book to introduce the book, which will be out May 6th. Is that correct? May 6th is when that book comes in, but you can pre-order. And again, that information will be given out at the end of the conversation today. But this book is more than a poetry collection. It feels like a sanctuary, a place where love in all its form can be seen, honored, and celebrated. So to introduce the book, I'm just going to read some of, not the entire introduction to the book that is written by James. So I'm just going to read a little bit, and this is the book that we are talking about, this upcoming book, Love is for All of Us. And the introduction, I'm just going to read a little bit from it because it says what I would like to say. And this is written by James. I can still see those two young men kissing on the street that morning in Portland, Oregon, as sunlight broke through the cloud cover. I watched the two of them say a long goodbye to each other, kissing and kissing again. Looking out from the window of my bus, even from that distance, I could feel the tenderness of their connection, the way they kissed without shame, no attempt to hide it from others, as I might have done at that time in my life. Ever since, I've carried that small scene with me as a reminder of the right to live and love out in the open. It's a powerful conversation, fellas. Thanks for bringing this book in. We all deserve to show our love for each other in the plainest of ways without having to worry about threats that others might pose to our safety. This is one of the main reasons that my husband, Brad, and I embarked on editing this anthology. We had both been discriminated against for our sexual orientation, insulted, rejected, and made to feel less than more times than they'd like to count. So as you open the pages of this book and begin taking in the life-affirming and heart-filled poems we've gathered here, we hope you enter a safe space where you too feel that love is for everyone, not just for a chosen few. We hope that you feel permission to become exactly who you are, knowing that you belong here. These poems reveal, each in their own ways, the many forms love might take: romantic love, self-love, love for nature, and love for the friends and family members who embrace us as we are. We hope people of all ages will feel both seen and heard, uplifted by the stories of others that we often need to read in order to access our own journeys of becoming. Poetry has the mysterious yet undeniable power to bring people together and recreate moments of deep intimacy and connection with very few words. Every poem is like an open door, inviting you inside, and each person who enters will find something different waiting for them. Let's never forget we are here to learn from each other and our relationships, keeping an open mind and open heart to the endless varieties and countless spaces of love that will speak to all of us. At a time when books are being banned, our rights are under attack, laws placed on our bodies, and our right to exist out in the open, we see this book as an antidote to prejudice. We believe these poems are the exact medicine we need to help us love each other, ourselves, and the world more fully, remembering that no matter who we are and no matter our situation, we deserve that everyday wonders. We deserve that the everyday wonders life offers us. May we all feel safe enough to seek out and receive the tenderness we need to thrive. I have talked enough. I am going to hand it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Jen. It's just a pleasure to be with all of you. I also want to say, you know, we have a number of contributors here with us tonight. So we have Lisa Brieger, who has a poem in the book, Annette Grunseth, who has several pieces in the book. Annette's daughter is also here as well. And Holland Bun is also here with us. So sorry if I'm missing anyone, but those are the names that I'm seeing right now. And I just want to welcome those folks and just, yeah, why don't I start by reading the very first poem in the book? This is, I did not intend to include this poem first, but Brad, ever the co-editor, insisted that, you know, this poem should be first, and it's my own poem. And I thought, like, gosh, how egotistical to include your own poem first in the anthology. And he said, who cares? It's the perfect poem to open it. So, so I caved in and included this one first, and I think it really encapsulates a good portion of our relationship, where, you know, we're teaching each other things, and this is what a marriage or a relationship is. And I wrote this after kind of meditating on Mary Oliver's quote. She says, you know, when it's all over, I want to say that I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. And both parts of that quote are so important to me because she's embracing both genders at the same time too, which I love. So this is Married to Amazement. The man I married sat next to me after our wedding, October light pouring in over dusty pews as he loosened his tie and sipped from a cup of apple cider, closing his eyes to savor the taste. Now I think I didn't marry him so much as his amazement for the everyday, the way he still gasps each time we see something new. Baby painted turtle plodding through a stream in the quarry, or the neon orange caterpillar inching across crisp leaves on the trail, how he kneels to film it from every angle, while I crouch beside him in awe of his awe, learning all that I can. So, you know, I often say whenever I'm out doing readings, Brad isn't always with me. And so I often say, you know, I'm not sure he's always happy about the way that I'm describing him as, you know, like these childlike gasps that he has. And so this is really fun for me. And I get to ask him, Brad, how do you feel about me describing you in this way?
Fine, really. You know, the funny thing is yeah, I guess I have sort of veto power over some of the poems if I think it's a little too personal or whatever. And I have to say there was one that James wrote because I like to sing in the shower, and I just, even though I'm giving up the game now and saying it, I sort of was like, maybe that one's just a little too close to home. But yeah, for the most part, it's great. I love it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And you know, it's really my fault that he vetoed that poem because there was mention of a coyote yipping, I think was one of the phrases I used. So you can understand why someone might not be thrilled to be described in that way. Um, so I would like to read another poem, and then maybe we'll hear from Brad as well. And I'll read a poem from one of our contributors who's here, Lisa Brieger, and this is dedicated to her wife, Anne Elizabeth Parker, and it's called "In the Middle of Our Lives." And I hope I do this justice, Lisa. So, in the middle of our lives, warming light of my life, imagine my days without you, desolate and alone. No sun through our lake house window, no Sunday French toast. You in your olive sweater, ready to shovel a path after the long storm. Who would help me with my snow pants or lace my boots? How could I tell of the woodpecker upside down at the feeder, or the cardinal on a bare branch, if it weren't for the way you whisper honey and my eyes open, dawn of a new day? Here in the middle of our lives, a parking lot kiss or knee-deep walk through a nor'easter, with rackets and swimsuits in a gym bag we share. You are all I want under moonlight, wolf moon or crescent, or when fog forms over the lake and the day goes gray and moist. You are all I want when the sun breaks and the difficult world goes easy. Sound of summer songbirds, flames, flames of lilac and gold from our garden. It just like makes me want to cry and smile at the same time, which I think is what a good poem really does. And there, you know, every poem in here, um, someone who was an early reader, she's like, every poem in here, every piece in here is a home run. And we really felt that way as we were gathering the poems for this book, you know, finding them in books and taking submissions. So are there some pieces you want to read, Brad? You want to share some stuff?
Uh, sure. One is this poem. So a lot of people ask about the selection process and what it was like, and we asked people to send us 3 to 5 poems, and some people sent one, some people sent 5, but we had over 300 submissions, and so going through them was quite a task. And you know, we of course want to give deep reverence to everyone who wrote. So this was sort of a gauge. This poem I read and I wept at the table, and I just it hit me right away, and I just loved it. And this is from Jason O'Toole. It's called Father's Day. I'd like to be a father, you said your last week alive. You'll make a great dad, I said. Imagine the baby you might adopt, who your partner might be, and me, a grandfather. Another Father's Day without you. Without you, I'm still your father. You'll never accept me as a son, you said, when you came out as trans. You will always be my son. you would have made a great dad. And I love that poem. I love the poem because sometimes our relationships with our parents are complicated. And I know that my own relationship with my father was complicated at times, especially when I first came out. And then, 10 years later, he's marching in a pride parade with me. So it's, you know, it's complicated. It doesn't make sense sometimes. It's hard, but with enough grace and love, hopefully we get to the other side. So, so that's one poem that I really love from this collection. I mean, I love them all, but that one really touched me a lot. So,
I had that one that I wanted to touch on tonight too. Actually, there was how there's a couple of them there. There's like pages 56 through 61 are about fathers and the poems and stories on that. And this is an important part of the conversation. The acceptance from our loved ones is so huge. So I just want everybody to know that there's a little section in there about that, and I thought it was really great. I was gonna even James's poems, which some of us have heard, but it's just gorgeous. But thank you for sharing that, Brad. Please continue. I didn't mean to cut in, but
no, that's fine. I think the one thing as at least as I get older or got older, I understood that my family was expansive. It was beyond who I was born, my biological family. And I think that's just so important for us all in the community to just open our arms and create safe spaces and family for anyone, especially in the LGBTQI plus family. And it's just really important and helped me a lot. So I will read a poem of mine that I wrote. It's called Pockets of Joy. Cleaning out old clothes from childhood, I came across a pair of worn out camouflage jeans I once had to be bribed to get out of. Holding them in my hands sparked flashes of days spent under the canopies of trees on fire with color. Back when I took the time to savor chasing falling leaves, relishing in the excitement each time I caught one in my outstretched hands. Depositing them now in my pants as if they were a treasure to be withdrawn at some later date. Perhaps it was a premonition for this moment when life feels less simple, and all we need to reach in, and all we all need to reach into our pockets of joy, pulling out golden shards of oak and maple leaves stowed away from all those years ago, until it is finally time to cash them in for that precious memory of happier days we thought we had forgotten. Thank you. So that's the second time that I've ever read a poem out loud of my own. So very exciting, and I really I appreciate it all. But it just reminds me of James and I talk about pockets of joy and just these little things that we put away or we think of, and and I really loved it, and I love that idea. And so this poem came to me when I was on vacation with James and my mom in Maine, which I have been traveling to Maine with my mother for over 26 years now, which is just a highlight of my year that we get to spend that week together. So I think James, you can take over from here.
Okay.
I was going to make sure you fellas are seeing the comments in the chat. We have Deborah says, the older I get, the more I appreciate anyone, old or young, with childlike wonder. Is the best compliment. And you're getting beautiful, Brad. Lots well done. Lots of kudos to you, Brad. It's a joy to have you here and to hear you read your lovely work. Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you. And thank you all for putting that in the chat. And I, at some point, might respond, but like I said, I'm still figuring this all out. So
It's all good. Beautiful.
Well, I think speaking of mothers, I want to read this poem by Annette Grunseth, who is here with us, as well as with her daughter Anna tonight. And Annette we did take submissions for the book, but Annette was someone whose work I was familiar with and reached out to her specifically because I knew she had written about her daughter's transition and some of the issues that come up in the book. And thanks to Jen for pointing out the sort of different threads that come in and out through the book. One of the ways that I've always put together my anthologies is to try and see how the poems talk to each other. And so, there'll be this thread of poems that just came to be that are like all about tomatoes, or, with this book, for whatever reason, one of the driving images, perhaps not surprisingly, was butterflies, caterpillars, this idea of transformation. And so this is one of those poems from that kind of thread in the anthology, and this is called Wings. A black and yellow striped caterpillar chews a milkweed leaf, spins a green jewel chrysalis with a smidge of gold, cocoons until it transforms into a butterfly with strong wings that can fly far. My daughter transitioned too. You may not understand her biology, but like the monarch, she grew wings to fly, to be herself. She's the best cloud catcher I know. So lots of poems around that. There's poems for everyone in here. And, one of the things when we were putting together this book, we didn't realize there would be full color illustrations throughout the book. So that was a joy. I'll just hold up one that's on the page here by Lisa Congdon, who is an artist and designer, also queer, out of Portland, Oregon. But we chose the poems and put this book together, as you can probably tell in the way we're speaking about it, with young people in mind, hoping that these poems would really reach any young people who might be struggling at this very fraught moment in our world history for LGBTQ plus people. And so it was a challenge actually to choose poems that might be accessible to them, but that would also be layered and complex and, really be something to chew on. But I hope we did a pretty good job of that. And so this is another poem that came our way from a queer writer who lives out in Oakland with her family. And this is called Mending, which seems very appropriate for this moment. This is by Allegria Barkley, Mending. I recently took up mending, that simple task of renewal. It's harder than it seems to put something back together again. the ragged hole somehow larger than the cloth left to cover it. And yet I am drawn to this tangible act of repair, the precise puncture point of the needle making a new hole to fix the old, the supple sound of thread drawing through fabric, and then the repetition, prick, thread, the mending, a meditation, the meditation, a mending. I don't know if I'm drawn to this because the world has so many frayed edges, and I have only needle and thread and my words to weave it back together. Or perhaps it's simply the best way I know how to make things whole. My head bent over the ripped knees of my son's jeans, each stitch both a patch and a prayer to keep him safe, to keep us whole, to repair the world. And, funny enough, actually, you never know what's going to happen or when a poem is going to deeply touch you. And Alegria was with me on a meditation and poetry retreat that I was leading out in California. And she literally wrote this in 15 minutes, and I mean, 15 minutes and the whole lifetime it took her to get to it, but it came out in 15 minutes and she read it and it was just like something struck me and I saw exactly where it was going to go in the book that we were already putting together. So, we have to leave a lot of really excellent, really good poems behind in favor of the poems that are going to add to the story or the arc of a particular book. And I always feel that whenever I'm putting together an anthology. I want to include all the poems, but you can only include a few here and there. Brad, I don't know if do you want to read your final piece in the book or do you want to talk a little bit about that? Totally up to you. I don't want to derail you if you had other plans.
No, it's okay. I mean, I don't know how many of you know of my story, but I was in the military and was kicked out for being gay under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which led to a lot of difficulties for me. Coming home, suicide was a daily struggle. And I uh, really struggled for a long time and didn't even wasn't honest with my family, didn't tell them why I had left because I hadn't even come out to them yet. And it was a really, really difficult time in my life. And I live in a very, now James, live in a very rural part of Vermont in Shaftesbury. Um, and it was pretty amazing to me how much my community stepped up when I did finally come out. Um, but when I was struggling, it was this, we had this thing here where we just wave to people. And I used to run a lot and I would see people's hands go out the window and people would wave. And I could see them and they didn't know what I was going through, but they also didn't ever realize how much that meant to me and how much that kept me going. And so when the first trans ban for people in the military came about during the first administration, that is when I began to tell my story, because it just I knew what it would mean. I knew that we would lose good people through suicide because it's just an awful thing to be discriminated against, especially by your own government. But so I wrote about it in this book, and I won't read the whole thing. But I think I'll read the last paragraph, and the title of it is Now is Our Time. And so now is our time to stand strong and rise united, embracing each other for all our differences. Now is the time to open our arms and strengthen our communities so that we all have a place to belong and call home, where we are celebrated and loved for exactly who we are. I know firsthand the power of an open and loving community where people still wave, still stop to say hello, acknowledging that you exist in the world, you matter. These are the connections and simple acts of kindness that can and will save lives. I know this to be true because my community opened its arms and helped save mine. So that's, yeah, it's we did a podcast earlier, like about a month ago now, and we were talking about this book, and in the podcast, um, the interviewer asked me about this, and I could not speak. I actually broke down and could not speak. It's because I believe it's very tender, but also it's the first time anyone had known my story and really asked about it out loud. And it was very, very powerful. Um, and yeah, so, but
Well,
I hope you enjoy the piece if you get the book and read it.
Brad, you're a joy, a love. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to make sure you're seeing some of these comments. Um, so sorry to hear about the trauma you endured. Glad you were here with us today. Um, my wife experiences too. Thank you. So beautiful. So hope. Thank you so much for sharing. It's very powerful. Such a moving, beautiful, and powerful piece, Brad. I've already ordered the book. Yay. Love you, Brad. Love that epilogue. There's tons of notes in here saying there's not enough tissues for tonight. Such beautiful and thoughtful work. I just want to make sure that you know you're getting so much love in this chat. And that is the last few pages of the book, and that I did read that, and um, there's no words sometimes. Please go ahead and unless you'd like to take a break and ask questions or
well, I was going to ask Brad. I mean, I think it's really powerful what you said, Brad, and I don't think I realized that on the podcast that that was the first time, besides maybe me, that someone had asked you about your story, and that it was going to be for this kind of public forum. And so, now you have told your story in a public way, well, in a book, when you told it years ago. Do you feel like the farther it's shared and the farther it's reached, that you heal more? Or, how does that feel for you, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in some ways it's like opening a wound, but opening a wound can be good to let the air heal it. And I think in many ways it's like that. So the more I talk about it and share it, um, the more I heal from it because I can hear from I hear other stories from other people. I've heard from other parents about their kids and their struggles in the military as a queer person. And so then they contact me and are very appreciative of me being open about it all. So
Yeah. Well, I wanted to share one other poem, and then maybe we could go into some questions if folks have questions or comments. Jen, I'll let you lead the way. But I wanted to share one more poem from one of our contributors who's here with us, Holland Bond. And I'm pretty sure this came also out of a workshop I was leading. Yeah, that's right, Holland. Okay. And so I heard it and I said, "Oh, please send that to me." And Holland did, and it ended up in the anthology. So you just never know where these poems are going to end up. And this is called Tentative Grace, a title I adore. Tentative Grace. Forgive me for hiding inside of me the small log cabin with pungent herbs hanging from the rafters, the sunlight that falls across the wood floor, the wise woman pouring tea at the table. Forgive me for squirreling away the animals of my forest, the mountain lion watching absolutely everything, the deer living in such tentative grace, always ready to spring, the bear rumbling past in search of berries. Forgive me for keeping myself so safe that I won't even show you the wonders here, the crystal clusters glinting, the magic so palpable it moves along the skin of your arm like electricity. Forgive me for matching the wallpaper so perfectly, my chameleon skin peeling as if I am nothing more than the wall of an empty house. Forgive me too for not being able to do the impossible, to transmute the poisons of the lineage into something sweet. I have tried. I have taken in so much that it nearly killed me. Forgive me for not dying, for staying, for trying to become visible again. Forgive me now if I show up, show myself. Forgive me if I become resplendent, if I smell of pine needles and dirt, if I sound like the water in a stream skipping over rocks, if I walk up the trail toward you and I say, "Can you see me?" Very powerful.
So powerful. A couple of the comments are just the poetry. Your poetry is medicine. What courage you both have. May we see the time where that courage is no longer needed because everyone is accepted. Thank you, Brad and James. Yes, well, I would like to see if anybody has any questions or comments. It's not always the opportunity, even in the writing groups, to ask questions that might veer off subject or something. So we will ask if you put your little the raise the hand button at the bottom if you have any questions or comments for either of these two beautiful men. And you know, I gotta say, a lot of times words don't come, you know, and the questions don't come until afterwards. Um, because it's like it's sitting and it's just absorbing. So sometimes I'm like, I wonder why nobody asked. But then I've learned that it's powerful and we're just receiving. Carol raised her hand. Go ahead, Carol.
There you go. Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for doing this. And it's less a question, I think, than just a comment and an expression of gratitude for you for doing this, for James and Brad. James, of course, I'm one of the people in his writing community. As I see, names and faces, it's great to see some faces that I met in person last year at James's summer writing retreat. And I just wanted to say, as I listened to Brad, number one, read Jason's amazing poem about his child. Jason was one of the people I was able to meet in person last year at the same retreat. And as I listened to Brad talk about this being his first foray into, reading his work and being part of a Zoom publicly, it just so grateful that things like this exist and people like the three of you exist to put out the work and bring the people together. Because, when I think about when many of us were much younger and we'd read a poem that we loved, there never would be an opportunity to meet the poet or interact with the poet or meet with other people over forums like this. And I just want to, remind you, Brad, your family is definitely even bigger than you think, because everybody here and well beyond are gratefully part of that. So again, thank you, Jen, for doing this. And thank you, James and Brad.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for supporting, for sure. Yeah, I love these, the way all of these Zoom communities are just phenomenal to me. I've recently joined James's group as well, so see you around. Thank you so much, Carol. Kimberly.
Hi there. I have to say that this just blows me away. First of all, I want to know if you're going to do like some kind of a lottery to live on your 40 acres, because I want in. Okay. That sounds wonderful. And I have such high respect for both of you, for your bravery and for your choice of poems. And I just think that it comes down to the pure and simplicity of words that is so honest. And I feel like that is so needed, during this day and age. And I'm just bawling over here.
Oh,
But I just want to let you know that I really appreciate it. And I do want to be in for the lottery.
okay. Well, we have a greenhouse with your name on it. If you're willing to live in a greenhouse, you
Oh,
I always
wonderful.
say we live on 40 rocky acres. I mean, we essentially live on top of a mountain. So there's not there's not a lot of space to build things. Um, but lottery, absolutely. And
All
and
right.
actually I will say, just to plant a seed, Brad and I are looking at land to
Oh,
maybe hopefully someday build a retreat space center, who knows what all. So just put some positive vibes into the universe that the right piece of land will come along for us.
all right. Sounds
Yes,
good.
it's
Yeah.
going to be like a farming slash poetry collaboration, which is very symbiotic anyway. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking my language.
Good, good.
Thank you so much, Kim. Yeah, I gotta say I was wanting you to do a video of all your 40 acres myself. I heard about it a few times and I'm very intrigued as well. Karen Cassinger, please.
This is such a gift that you offered this forum, and I've known James through, I guess, since COVID, since he first started having workshops. So I'm like in my ninth decade, straight, white, ancient, crowing woman. But my life in the last 15 years has become just filled with color and depth and warmth and wonder, as my own world has included a trans godson, and my closest friends are my lesbian neighbors and James. I feel like, even though I've never seen even a picture of Brad, that you've been part of my life just because you're so intimately woven into all that James writes and does. So I'm just so grateful to be here and for just this rich, humus, fertile soil that you keep tilling, that will finally change the minds and hearts of this tragic, broken world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought I saw Kay's hand up, but I guess not. Went down there.
Yes. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kate, and I am a British Kiwi and living on a hilltop farm. And I'm just intrigued. For me, these Zooms have totally made my poetic life possible, because I am actually quite isolated. And if you move and you don't know people, you have to work hard at it. And I think it's so interesting being on a farm, which I love the quiet, I love the silence, but how to balance that with some isolation. So I'm just interested, you may have said this all, but how you balance that mix.
You want to speak to that a little bit, Brad? Also, we love New Zealand, by the way, so I think we want to be in the lottery to live on your hilltop farm for a little while. Also, just putting that out there.
Well, for me, it's a little easier because I've lived in this community my entire life, so I pretty much know everyone. I think luckily, and maybe not luckily for James, he came into it and wasn't quite used to this small town ways of things, but has adopted it for the most part. And but for me, it's going to work. We do live in a very rural area, and so for me, going to the farm and being around other folks, that sort of is my socialization because I spend a lot of time at the farm and have for many years. And now, like with you, getting onto Zoom and these online communities has changed my way of thinking. It's amazing. I'm late to the game, I guess, but it is pretty amazing to just be in community with all you all from all over the world right now. And I'm just very grateful for that. But yeah.
Yeah. And I would say too, Kate, and I appreciate your question because it is something that I think, even people who live in maybe more crowded places might struggle with a sense of isolation or loneliness or, lack of, especially if you're poets or interested in poetry, people are not shouting it from the street, typically. And so you kind of do have to create your own community. I think for me, it is an ongoing balance, and I'm still having to figure out what that balance is because like things like this are a gift. And even traveling, like, I think Shelley Alshire is with us here. I'm going to be in Shell Beach, California next week, reading and offering a workshop. And so it is hard to balance that need of isolation and solitude with also a need for connection. But I will say, I think that feeling of needing a community was actually why I put together my first anthology of poetry, which was Healing the Divide, right after Trump was elected the last time. And so, I had just moved to Vermont and was feeling like, where are my people? And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to have to like gather all my people together in a book and bring them to me somehow. And so that's really what led to that. And I think, once COVID hit, that is also what has led to my gathering of people in webinars and now in monthly community. I just had a weekend workshop with, several people who are with us today, Mary Dean Carter, Ellen O'Connell, Adrian, who's with us tonight too. So, lots of people came to that too, and continue to show up for one another, because we all learn together. And I believe that when we gather like this, we shift consciousness. And I think that is what is needed more than anything right now.
Thank you. I grew up for 45 years in London, so it's been a big change. But I agree, these have brought the community. And yesterday I listened to Ada Limone's final talk as poet laureate, and it said to me just what our diverse brains and offerings of poetry can give each other. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, so much. I have been surprised, pleasantly surprised by the intimacy that is absolutely in these communities. When I first started with the virtual, I was like, because of COVID is why I got into it as well. But I have been so surprised by the intimacy, and just it is a beautiful gift. And there's lots of comments to that as well. And just want to make sure again, you see, so grateful to have my path cross with yours, James, and how these people are very, very appreciative of your sharing today. Are there any other questions or comments? James, what did you learn about your own heart as you and your love and your shared love as you created this alongside with Brad? Because when it comes as thought and then the process is we find out what.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know a little bit what changed in you maybe.
It's a great question. I think I'm still discovering that. I do think that, I often feel overwhelmed. I was just telling Brad the other day that I, had a therapy session and definitely needed the tissues because we were talking about this book, and, just feeling overwhelmed by, I've created a number of books now, but this one feels so important and feels so necessary right now. And to have done it with my husband, to have this be a full collaboration and, both of us sharing in the choosing process. So I guess what I learned about my own heart is what I'm always learning, that it can stretch wider, vaster than I think it can. That, you, as a creative person, I have a heart vision for the kind of work I want to put into the world. And I realize that I'm with someone who shares in that heart vision and who adds to it and augments it continually. On a practical level, there were poems that I may have looked past, and that Brad said, no, this poem needs to be in here. This poem needs to be in here. And so, I think being able to just set aside ego, set aside self, expectation, and really be the open door that these poems, that are all of our stories pass through. That makes sense.
Yes, this is such an amazing conversation. The power of it is felt deep down in the bones as I'm talking myself here. And I can only imagine that brought you so much closer together even. I think you, Brad, I think you answered a little bit of this when you were talking about a little bit before so my question was there anything about this process that surprised you a part of your own creative voice that got unearthed. So I do know that your creative voice got unearthed, but maybe what has surprised you and yes, just go ahead with that. What surprised you working together with your husband on this wonderful project?
I think what surprised me the most was how easy it was, actually. I mean, James and I have both been and continue to be in therapy, and um, I think just like growing and being committed to growing with one another, and it was so easeful. Uh, it just, whenever there were like no arguments whatsoever, it was just a discussion. And I mean, it was just, I think just the ease of it all really surprised me, and it was fantastic. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
And what I would
Beautiful.
say too is, one of the things um, that I'm often struck by is it's like this book wanted to be born, and we were, you know, midwifing it into the world. It just, not that it came fully formed, we had to still work for it and, lend our vision to it, but it just, people said yes at every turn, like Richard Blanco saying yes to doing the foreword. I was like, really? And then, Lisa Congdon, this very well-known artist and designer, I mean, she has her own shop, she has all this merchandise and is very busy, and still agreed to do this, not only the cover of the book, but also the illustrations, and all of the generous poets and writers who lent us their work. So it really just felt like, I think that's partly why it was so easy, because we have both done a lot of work together and on ourselves, but also because this book wanted to be in the world right now. And we didn't even know that we would be where we are or in the situation we're in now when we dreamed this up, what, 2 years ago, Brad? I think it was now. It's been a few
Yeah.
years. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I hear you. Do you want to read one more poem?
Sure. You want me to read, Brad?
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, let's see here.
The book is getting what a wondrous creation. Welcome to the book. The world so needs this book.
Yeah.
Nice comments, everybody.
Thank you. I think I'll end with one of the final poems in the book, and this is by a person you all may know if you're fans of poetry, Padre Gotuma, and it's called The Facts of Life. The facts of life: that you were born and you will die, that you will sometimes love enough and sometimes not, that you will lie, if only to yourself, that you will get tired, that you will learn most from the situations you did not choose, that there will be some things that move you more than you can say, that you will live, that you must be loved, that you will avoid questions most urgently in need of your attention, that you began as the fusion of a sperm and an egg of two people who were once strangers and may well still be, that life isn't fair, that life is sometimes good and sometimes even better than good, that life is often not so good, that life is real, and if you can survive it well, survive it well, with love and art and meaning given where meaning is scarce, that you will learn to live with regret, that you will learn to live with respect, that the structures that constrict you may not be permanently constricting, that you will probably be okay, that you must accept change before you die, but you will die anyway. So you might as well live, and you might as well love. You might as well love you might as well love.
Just beautiful. Before we share the contact information, I want to ask you just one last question. What would you say to the listener who's quietly writing poems in their journal, not sure if their voice belongs out in the light?
What
Well,
would you say?
I would say your voice absolutely is important. And there are all different skill levels, and there are all different forms and modalities of poetry. And I mean, it's just amazing. So, I mean, keep writing and be brave, and your voice is worth hearing.
Yeah, I think the world needs us all to be fully realized humans and as we are. And like Brad said, there are so many forms, there are so many modalities of poetry and writing. So you may be convinced that there's no place for your voice in the world, but I guarantee you, I promise you, there is a place for you and your voice. And, as people often say, there's someone out there who can only be opened and saved by your voice and the way that you express what you have to express. So go forth.
Thank you. And I just want to add to that the vulnerability gets a little bit easier. The more you do, the more fun it is to do, and none of us are perfect. James, Brad, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my soft, wide open heart. This conversation has been a love story of its own. You can pre-order the book from their local indie bookstore at batandkillbooks.com or bookshop.org or anywhere you purchase your books. And I'm going to try to put that link in the chat for Bat and Kill. If I can do that correctly. Or anywhere you purchase your books. But please also visit jamescruz.net. jamescruz.net. Get on his mailing list. Stay up to date with his offerings. If you sign up for his weekly newsletters, he sends out poems. There's so many other ways to connect with James. Just sign up to the jamescruz.net. Will get you anywhere you want to go. He's also on Substack at jamescruz.substack.com. We will send this information out in the follow-up email along with the replay link tomorrow. Please visit zenfulconversations.com. Sign up for more of these soulful gatherings. Stay connected to what really matters. Thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you for showing up for all of us, because now more than ever, it matters to show up. James and Brad, in peace, presence, love, and joy. True gratitude. Everyone, may this be a reminder that love is vast, real, and belongs to all of us. Your voice matters. Your story belongs. And sometimes the most revolutionary thing we can do is share who we truly are. Until next time, I'm Zenjan Brown, and this has been Zenful Conversations. Go gently, speak boldly, and let love lead, because love is for all of us. Namaste, friends. Thank you.
Thank
you all. Thanks so much.